Have you ever traveled through time? We do it every day.
Asgardia is a country with a population of more than 1 million people from more than 200 countries on Earth. Asgardia gives everyone equal opportunities, no matter what their earthly status is.
It is possible to create and live in the future right now. Are you ready? Forward progress is the solution to the entire human race. Our mission is to bridge new horizons. In Asgardia, there is no limit to the universal development in the fields of technology, finance, and arts. Asgardia is a new space and digital economy which creates opportunities for the global economy. We deliver innovations. Do you want to get on board with us? We are developing various kinds of digital businesses, attracting them to the Asgardia platform that can be backed by the means of our umbrella, i.e. franchising of the Asgardia brand. We can not only attract investments into space programs from prominent institutional investors, but also affordable amounts from the citizens of Asgardia. We comprise of more than 1 million people.
Asgardia is a chance to realize one's dream. This is a dream-driven space nation. Asgardia is a chance to belong to a community of free-thinking enthusiasts, goal-driven dreamers, and fearless innovators, theorists, and scientists.
We are the first space nation. One humanity, one unity.
Asgardia.
We are creating
The future.
Fine.
Don't forget to put on your interpretation button.
Yes, and I will ask the interpreters to give their usual talk before we begin so that everybody is aware of how this works. We'll start in 1 minute. If you're watching around the world, welcome to the first sitting of the second session of Parliament. We will explain all of that presently. We're just waiting for some more colleagues to arrive, and then we will begin.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Or I guess good day to some of you.
Good day is a safer statement.
Good day.
We'll start in about half a minute, formally.
Hola. To my Spanish colleagues.
Hola, ¿qué tal?
That's as far as I go. That's as far as I go, Ariadne. I could do Tengo Hambre as well. But other than
that's
that,
good.
I've spent.
My breakfast is what it was unable also.
Hola, hola, saludo.
Hola,
Merhaba.
saludo.
It's the Maine, USA.
Okay, I'm going to bring us to order now. And let's start as always. Welcome to parliamentarians and to viewers all over the world on Asgardia television to this, the first sitting of the second session of Asgardia's Parliament, the world's first fully functioning digital democracy and the world's first space nation. My name is Lembit Opik, and I'm the acting chair or facilitator for this session. Technically speaking, there will be a vote on who shall serve Parliament for the chairmanship for the next 5 years, and that's for later on in the agenda today. Let me review briefly what we will be covering today. Yesterday, we spoke about a number of things: the election of the sitting chairperson prior to the election of the chairman of Parliament, the position that I'm holding at the minute, the election of the Mandate Commission and its chair, and the election of the Counting Commission and its chair. Today, we will discuss the election of the Chairman of Parliament for the next 5 years, and also the appointment of the Prime Minister. But today is far more important even than that. It was 5 years ago today that the original parliamentarians met in Vienna for the inaugural sitting of this Parliament. Now, those of us who were there will remember the importance and the sense of occasion that took place then. Today is formal in the same sense because we celebrate 5 years of a successful digital democracy, and one which has proved that as we set our own protocols and we remain united in the mission of Asgardia, we have been able to make our democracy work. Much of the proceedings in this very special first sitting of Parliament are devoted to making sure that all of those things continue, and we will talk more about that later. Let us look forward to a very exciting day, and shortly our head of nation, Dr. Asher Bailey, the founder of Asgardia, will address us in about 10 minutes or so. Before then, we have some business to conduct, as promised last night. For those watching at home and new members of Parliament, we are a very democratic system, and you will recall yesterday we had what is an indicative vote, an indication of Parliament's decision about the chair and members of the Accounting Commission, and also the chair and members of the Mandate Commission. And also we were seeking to confirm the quorum, which gives us the authority to state clearly and officially that everything we decide and vote on here carries legal gravity. In other words, these are authentic decisions. To remind you, the quorum is 50% plus one of Parliament. We have 150 members of Parliament, so the quorum will be 75 plus 1, so 76 members of Parliament. And in a moment, I'm going to ask Saltanat to report on the results of the Accounting Commission work, and then Marcus to report on the results of the Mandate Commission work. Just in a moment, we'll do that. After that, then we will determine the status of our proceedings. And then after a few other minor announcements, we will hear from our head of nation, Dr. Asher Bailey, the person who has made all of this possible, as he lays out his views on this very, very historic occasion. And recall that this means we will have been functioning successfully for 5 years with the many thousands of meetings which have taken place and the progress that has gone with it too. Let us get on with the formal proceedings. I would also ask that if you wish to say something, please do raise your hand. Because of the formal nature of the day, I will see your hand, but I will choose the right time for us to have those questions and comments. I will enable everyone to speak, of course, but we do need to follow procedures, and we need to follow the formality which reflects the gravitas of the occasion. But just before we do go into the work and the report back from Saltanat and Marcus, let me ask, as always, for our translators to give us a short summary of how you can listen in Russian, Spanish, and Turkish, and also in English if those languages are spoken. Let me begin with our Russian interpreter to explain how you can use the listening room in order to follow proceedings. So good morning to you. I think it may be Ilya.
Я, наверное, да. Добрый день, доброе утро, добрый вечер, уважаемые члены парламента Асгардии второго созыва. Хочу вкратце напомнить вам, как осуществляется работа с переводом. Перевод осуществляется в синхронном режиме. Никакого последовательного перевода, поэтому никаких пауз не должно быть, это очень сильно экономит время. Что касается вас, если вы только слушаете, то вы находитесь в русской комнате или по-другому в русском канале. Если вы хотите выступить на русском языке, задать вопрос, сделать комментарий или презентацию, вы остаетесь слушать в русском канале, а говорите в основном канале или в основной комнате. Никаких пауз делать не нужно. Единственная моя просьба, пожалуйста, говорите чуть медленнее. Особенно, если вы будете зачитывать какой-то документ. И большая просьба на сегодня и на будущее. Пожалуйста, используйте качественный микрофон. Поскольку если у вас не очень качественные наушники, это влияет только на вас. Если у вас некачественный микрофон, тогда будет плохо слышать переводчик, и перевод будет неадекватным. Удачи вам, спасибо и плодотворной работы.
Thank you, Ilya. Let us move on to our Spanish interpreter, Liz Garriga. As always, very good to see you. Over to you.
Thank you, Chairman. Buenos días, buenas tardes, buenas noches, donde quiera que estén alrededor del mundo, queridos parlamentarios. Bienvenidos a este segundo día de esta primera sesión del segundo Parlamento de Asgardia. Ayer explicamos, pero hoy puede que hayan personas nuevas. Nosotros estamos traduciendo en idiomas ruso, turco y español para poderse conectar a los canales que deban escuchar el idioma preferido. Por favor, tengan en cuenta que tienen que apretar el botón del canal correcto y algunas veces van a estar hablando en otros idiomas, así que tengan pendiente que si han cambiado el canal a inglés o español o ruso o turco, pues tienen que moverse al canal indicado. Si tienen alguna pregunta, por favor, comuníquense con el señor Lembitopic o con Linda y nosotros vamos a arreglar lo que necesiten en cuanto a las traducciones. Recuerden también de hablar un poco despacio cuando estén hablando en su idioma para poder hacer la mejor interpretación posible. Muchas gracias y tengamos un lindo día.
Very many thanks, Liz. And let's move on to our Turkish interpreter. And over to you. I believe that's Bialpa.
Thank you, Chairman. Evet değerli katılımcılar, Asgardia Parlamentosu'nun ikinci döneminin ilk toplantısının ikinci gününe bizler de hoş geldiniz demek istiyoruz. Ve tekrardan seçim sonuçlarının hepiniz için hayırlı olmasını temenni ederiz. Bildiğiniz üzere artık alışılageldiği üzere toplantılarımızda 3 farklı dilde simultane çeviri hizmeti sunulmakta. Bunlardan biri de Türkçe. O yüzden eğer Türkçe dinlemek isterseniz bütün toplantıyı aşağıda bulunan tercüme ikonundan Türkçeyi seçmeniz yeterli olacaktır. Onun haricinde eğer sizler Türkçe olarak parlamentoya seslenmek isterseniz bunu da yapabilirsiniz. Siz direkt olarak Türkçe konuşabilirsiniz. Bizler arkadan otomatikman zaten İngilizceye çeviriyor olacağız ve diğer meslektaşlarımız da diğer dillere aynı anda çeviriyor olacaklar. Tercümenin sağlıklı bir şekilde ilerleyebilmesi için sizlerden her zaman olduğu gibi ricamız konuşmalarınızı mümkün olduğunca yavaş, tane tane ve anlaşılır bir şekilde aktarmanız. Bunun haricinde yapmanız gereken başka bir şey yok. Eğer herhangi bir teknik aksaklık yaşarsanız da parlamento koordinatörüyle iletişime geçebilirsiniz. Bizler derhal elimizden geleni yaparız. Şimdiden tekrardan çok teşekkürler. İyi toplantılar. Thank you.
Many thanks to you and to our other two interpreters. If you have any issues, then do put it in the chat and we will deal with those matters. Sanat, briefly, go ahead. If it's a process point.
Thank you. Is that what is this this interpretation? We are not able to listen to the English version of all these people. Should that not be also done?
Let's deal with that later. There is a way. If you listen in the English box, you will always hear English, whoever is speaking. So go to EN, that's the English chat box, or the original audio to hear the original language.
In the chat box only, not interpretation.
At the bottom where it says you've got various options, listen in, next to reactions, if you go in there. If you've got problems, just send me a message now and then I'll send you a response.
All right. Thanks.
Thank you. Let us move on to the business before we hear from our head of nation. Once again, the final voting results will be available after the sitting, but let us hear the preliminary voting results from the Accounting and Mandate Commissions, and I would invite Saltanat to report on the results of the Counting Commission work. Saltanat.
Let me welcome first all the parliamentarians of Asgardia, and I'll start reading the preliminary report of the Counting Commission on the voting results of the first day of the first sitting of the second Parliament of Asgardia, which happened 7th of Leo 007, actually 24th of June 2023. Dear ladies and gentlemen, I, Saltanat Shalahmetova, Chair of the Counting Commission of the Parliament of Asgardia, hereby bring to your attention the preliminary voting results for the first day of the first sitting of the second Parliament of Asgardia on accepting of the agenda and its first three items, which took place on 6th of Leo 007, 23rd of June 2023, and was performed in digital format. Voting and counting was performed using Asgardia's electronic voting system. Let me submit the results for each voting item to the Mandate Commission and the Parliament of Asgardia. On adopting, the first question discussed was adopting the agenda. Voting item, adopting the agenda of the first sitting of the second Parliament of Asgardia. The total number of Parliament members admitted to the sitting and voting as per report of the Mandate Commission is 85. Voting results: in favor 84, 99%, against 0%, abstain 0%. Second voting item, election of the sitting chairperson prior to the election of the chairman of Parliament. The total number of Parliament members admitted to the sitting and voting as per report of the Mandate Commission is 85. Voting results: 81, 95%, against 0, abstain 0. Decision to approve Mr. Lembik Opek as Speaker of the sitting prior to the election of the Chairman of Parliament. According to the agenda, voting item number 3. Election of the Mandate Commission and its chair. The total number of Parliament members admitted to the sitting and voting as per report of the Mandate Commissions is 85. Voting results: 78, 92%, against 0, abstain 0. Decision to approve the Mandate Commission comprising Markus Grondbach, Chairman, Matthew Farmer, Christina Daumann, members. And the last and the fourth voting item was election of the Counting Commission and its chair. The total number of Parliament members admitted to the sitting and voting as per report of the Mandate Commission is 85. Voting result: 78, 92%, against 0, abstain 0. Decision to approve the Counting Commission comprising Saltanat Shalahmetova, Chair, Rebecca Berg, Jacqueline Palmer, members.
Thank you very much, and congratulations to those who have been elected and appointed to those positions. And I'm very grateful for that clear summary, Saltanat. Let us move now to Marcus to report on the results of the Mandate Commission work to confirm quorum and authority. Marcus, good day to you. Over to you.
Good morning, good noon, good evening to all Asgardians in all time zones of the earth. I have the honor to report on the election in my capacity as Chairman of the Mandate Commission of the Parliament of Asgardia. And first of all, by the Constitution of Asgardia, the quorum is achieved by the participants of 85 people. And my report of the in my capacity of the chairman of the Mandate Commission of the Parliament of Asgardia on the registration and participation of Parliament members in the first sitting of the second Parliament of Asgardia on 6 to 8 Leo 0007, equivalent to the 23rd and to the 25th of June 2023. The 150 Parliament members who constitute the Parliament of Asgardia have been authorized to be admitted to registration and participation in the first sitting of the second Parliament of Asgardia. Each of the 150 Parliament members had the opportunity to register and vote using the voting platforms. A total of 85 Parliament members registered on the 6th Leo 0007, equivalent to the Earth date 23rd of June 2023, which is 56.7% of the total number of the Parliament members. Therefore, in line with the Act on Acts, a quorum for the first sitting of the second Parliament of Asgardia has been achieved. Therefore, the sitting is valid. As a next to the Mandate Commission report, you will find the list of the registered Parliament members as of 7th Leo 0007. And the list of non-registered Parliament members as of 07 Leo 0007. There were no irregularities detected, so the sitting is valid. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Marcus, for that good news. And let me say with great happiness, this means that the commencement of our sitting is officially recognized. So welcome to a quorate and valid sitting of the first Parliament of the second session, and you are here to see it. So well done. And you may applaud if you wish to, using your button. We now move on to one of the most important occasions we ever have in our sittings of Parliament. And in a moment, I will introduce the person who made all of this possible, the visionary who founded Asgardia and has led us for more than 5 years, but 5 years since Parliament was formed in Vienna on the 24th of June, 2018, in Earth calendar. That gentleman, of course, is known to you all, and it's a great honor for me to introduce and hand the floor to our head of nation, Dr. Igor Ashebeli. Welcome, sir.
Дорогие члены парламента Асгардии второго созыва.
Dear members of Parliament of Asgardia, second Parliament, it's my pleasure to welcome you personally to your first sitting. 5 years ago to date, I was standing on stage in Vienna, addressing the first ever in human history parliamentarians of the digital space nation of Asgardia. At that moment, we were at the very beginning of a new unexplored path, and we could only imagine the outlines of what we were to accomplish together, what we had to achieve, what we had to learn, what to overcome, and what to have to strive for. And now, in line with the constitution of Asgardia, time has come for the first Asgardian parliament to lay down its powers and authorities, and for the second Asgardian parliament to commence its work. I would like to express my gratitude to all the members of the first parliament for the great work they have done over the past 5 years. A total of 180 people have been members of parliament during this period. Some of them moved on to work to the government or to my administration. Some left the parliament due to various personal reasons. Several people were expelled by a decision of Asgardian Supreme Court. New members have been re-elected to fill the vacancies. Gathered here today are those to whom residents of Asgardia have given their votes, to whom they have entrusted the further building of the legislative framework of our nation, which is destined to be the future of the entire humanity. For the future of humanity lies far beyond the confines of planet Earth. It's in the universe. I extend my sincere congratulations to all of you on the assumption of office. There were a total of 247 applications submitted for the elections. 16 candidates were rejected. 227 candidates were allowed to stand for election. In line with the Asgardian constitution, you are now 150 people with the most votes today. It is good to see many familiar faces, people who have been at the forefront of parliamentarism of the first space nation in the history of humankind since 2018. You have decided to continue your service to humanity, to devote your time, strength, intellectual power, and energy to further development of Asgardia. Your dedication and willingness to share your experience with new members of parliament is worthy of respect and admiration. 80 members of the first parliament qualified for the second parliament, which is 53%. It is a special pleasure to welcome new members of parliament. In accordance with the wishes of Asgardians, last year, during the work on amending the Asgardian constitution, it was proposed and overwhelmingly approved to remove all the age limits for Asgardian civil servants in any position. In particular, the previously existing age threshold of 40 years for membership in parliament was lifted. I'm glad to mention that this decision has already paid off. The parliament was enriched with the new young people from various countries and became younger in its average age, going down from 88 in the first parliament to 48 in the new one, by as many as 10 years. I'm sure that the combination of experience and wisdom with the energy and enthusiasm of the young will bring additional fresh blood to already established habits and traditions of parliament. A total of 70 new members joined the second parliament, 46.7%. This is a serious renewal which demonstrates the presence of real democratic processes in Asgardia. The broader geographic representation of Asgardians living in the countries of planet Earth is also a testimony to that. There were 33 countries in the first parliament, and there are 49 in the current one. 16 more countries are represented. This is not essential, since Asgardia sees no earthly boundaries of state, but it rather shows the growing influence of Asgardians on Earth, where over 1,100,000 people living in over 200 countries. The Constitution of Asgardia defines the structure of our nation as a classical democratic system, with 3 independent branches of power. As members of Asgardian Parliament, the independent legislative branch, you are responsible for the development, discussion, and adoption of Asgardian laws, which are necessary for the continuous development of its economy, industry, further establishment of the governance system, and development of governmental institutions, for engagement in the international activities and interaction and collaboration with the countries of planet Earth. On the basis of Asgardian constitution and 11 already adopted acts, which you need to get acquainted with, as well as guided by the Act of Acts, regulating the activity of Asgardian Parliament, you will have to continue your laborious efforts on the detailed development of further legislative acts. I encourage you to focus on the agreed priorities so that in the next 5 years, our legislative framework goes to the next level. Today, in your first agenda, there are two most important issues: the election of the chair of parliament and the prime minister appointment. Regarding the candidates for the chair of parliament position, all the members of parliament have a right for self-nomination. About the prime minister, in line with the constitution, I held a meeting of the Supreme Space Council on 18th of June, their first, on the candidacy of prime minister, and the recommendation was forwarded to the parliament. Until the new government is formed, the current cabinet will temporarily perform its duties to ensure the smooth functioning of the executive branch. The third independent branch of power, the Asgardian court, continues its work since the term of office of our 4 Asgardian justices is unrelated to the term of the parliament. As for the Supreme Justice of the Asgardian Supreme Court, the same as exactly 5 years ago, I have just signed a decree appointing Mr. Yun Zhao to this position. I would like to thank him for his service to Asgardia in the course of the past 5 years and to wish him continued fruitful service. And after my address, I would ask Mr. Yun Zhao to supervise and monitor the conduct of this parliament sitting until you have elected your new chair. In conclusion, I would like to say that I expect each of you to participate personally, not only in lawmaking, but also in bringing the ideas of Asgardia to the people of your countries of residence. Expanding the circles of Asgardians and residents is also your responsibility. You should lead the Asgardian representative offices in your Earth countries and cities. Please involve those candidates who did not make it to the parliament, but who can head regional and city representative offices. Finally, we need to start collaboration with parliaments of the planet Earth countries and make every effort to gain international recognition of Asgardia as an independent nation. Yet, in all the multifaceted activities of all the 3 branches of power, not for a moment should we forget the primary mission of Asgardia, the birth of the first human child in space, to ensure the eternal existence of humankind in the universe. I wish you a fruitful and constructive work in the 2nd Asgardian Parliament. We are one humanity, one unity. I embrace each and every one of you. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much indeed, dear Head of Nation, and it is an honor indeed to welcome you to your Parliament. And as you said, I think the torch goes to Yun Zhao, our Supreme Justice, to continue proceedings. Yun, welcome to our event.
Honorable Head of Nation, Dr. Ashvili, thank you. It is a great honor to be appointed again. It has been a great experience for me in the past term. I'm pleased to see that our nation has fully formed justice system. Legislation on Asgardia judiciary is in place. Moreover, as you have just mentioned, 4 justices have been appointed. The growth of the legislative base of the nation is very important for the democracy, for the operation of the justice. On this important juncture, I'm looking forward to the new laws the Parliament adopts that will strengthen further our legal standing. I also look forward to continuing great cooperation with the Parliament and the government in new term. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed, John. And it is very good to see you in post again. And I have no doubt that the whole of Parliament applauds the Head of Nation's decision to reappoint you, sir. I now must hand the chairmanship of this session to you for the next item, which relates to the election of the Chairman of Parliament. Since I myself am a candidate, I can't chair this session, so I would invite you to take over for this item and invite the candidates who have applied to address the sitting and to announce the list of those candidates. So back to you, Jon.
Thank you. Thank you. Members of the Second Parliament, after Decree 71 by the Head of the Nation was published and the list of the parliamentarians was announced, every parliamentarian received a letter from the Elections Organization Office with explanations of the following steps and activities. It also included an invitation to those who wanted to send a self-nomination letter for the position of the chair of the parliament with a motivation and letter and the CV. One letter was received from Ms. Lambert-Opik, and I confirm that it is in line with the requirements of the application. Therefore, you will be voting today, yes, no, or abstain for him. Now I invite Ms. Opik to address the parliament as a candidate for the chair position. Mr. Opik, your floor, please.
Thank you very much indeed, current chair, Yuan Zhao, and I can tell you it's a great honor to see you, and it has been a real pleasure to work with you and indeed with the Head of Nation and the Prime Ministers that we have had over the last 5 years. My name is Lambert-Opik, and I'm asking you to give me permission to serve as Chair of Parliament for the Space Nation of Asgardia for the next 5 years. Not all of you will know me, but those who are in the previous Parliament will have the opportunity to vote for or against me based on my record of performance and what you have seen at first hand. What I would like to do is, in this address, share my ambitions for the first 5 years and what I asked you to let me do 5 years ago today. Then I would like to share with you my vision if you do select me as your chair for the next 5 years, and then finally some specifics in that plan of action. 5 years ago was a time of great enthusiasm, creativity, but also uncertainty for Asgardia's democracy. Nobody had ever created a fully functioning Asgardian or any democracy that operated on a digital scale before. The world had yet to see a fully functioning digital democracy. So that was a big challenge. We had no precedent to use. And I said 5 years ago, as I stood before the Parliament at that time, and many of you were there, that I sought to create that successful digital democracy. And my phrase was to create a democratic system that defaults to stability under pressure instead of chaos. In those 5 years, we have set up formal systems. The sittings of Parliament were defined and created in an evolutionary way. And when I see the progress we have made from the first sitting of Parliament to this one, I'm very honored to say that we collectively have created the culture that I thought it would be possible to create. Many of the protocols and etiquettes have never existed in politics before, but they seem to work quite well. And when they haven't worked, I have worked with you and with the Head of Nation and the Prime Minister and administration when that's been appropriate to improve those systems. We set up the committee structures first in 2018 in a huge room. And since then, we've formalized those processes, and we will talk more about that tomorrow. We created work plans, and under the leadership of our head of nation, that provides a focus for our committees and also for Parliament as a whole in terms of what we need to do. And we've had working groups, some of them formal, to try to fix specific issues. And I was very energized to be involved in the constitutional work for the referendum, which made some small course corrections, small improvements to what turned out to be a very robust and successful constitutional layout so far. And credit to those, including Marcus Grombach, who were involved in that all the way through from the beginning. It's a testimony to his work that we made so few changes, one of which the head of nation in his address mentioned, which was to remove the age limit. That was a response to what parliamentarians wanted, and parliamentarians voted for that change. I've also been involved in leading some informal systems and the creation of communications that really, I hope, work for us. The most obvious one is the weekly Thursday question and answer session, when I'm accountable to you, parliamentarians. We don't have votes there, but you get the chance to praise, criticize, suggest, and debate things. And I believe that has provided a sort of adhesive to our parliamentary activities, because we build our relations to the point that I often cannot even remember which of our colleagues I've physically met and which I have not. That is the strength of our digital democracy. We have chairs meetings, which were established by then Deputy Chair of Parliament, Ben Dell, and they were effective at really keeping me to account by the 12 chairs of Parliament. I can't take credit for that system, but I give praise to those who did set that up. And that was also chaired then later on by the other Deputy Chair, Salvos Mouzakitis. We've had a whole series of events and meetings online, some of which I have led and many of which I've participated in because of the excellent work of our teams and ministers and the Prime Minister also. I've visited many of you in countries including Italy, Greece, Corfu, Turkey, UK, and the Seychelles, and many more. And that's because sometimes there's no substitute for those physical meetings. And I've had one-off meetings with individuals when there have been issues, and with groups, most recently in Istanbul, in Turkey, where Ferda Inan was present. And I was really inspired to meet so many active Turkish Asgardia members of Parliament. I give you those as examples of me keeping my promise to be active and to hopefully always be available. It's been a great honor to have worked with the head of nation and had his guidance to deliver results. I've learned far more from him than from any other individual, not just in Asgardia, but in my recent life. It's his vision which inspires me to ask for the renomination, the approval from you to do another 5 years, because I have no doubt at all that he will get the results that we all seek in the interests of all humanity. I also think that we do default to stability under pressure. That was so important to me because others doubted whether we could make it work. And some people didn't want us to succeed from outside Asgardia. Well, we have made it successful, and we do default to stability under pressure. I think part of that has actually been to accept your feedback. Sometimes it's quite critical, and then make changes because nobody's perfect. We work better together, and we work better when we listen to each other. There's one other difficult thing we've done. We said, and the head of nation has always insisted on this, that we would not interfere with terrestrial politics, and we haven't interfered with that. I hope that despite the pressures and the temptations personally to get involved, you feel that was the right decision. So looking ahead, I would like to make the next 5 years a time of delivery. We've set up our democracy. Now it's our turn to turn ideas into action on the economy, to make it thrive, to let us be independently wealthy as well as a wealthy state, because we need that money to send our ambitions to space. We need to build the number of residents and followers, and we need to define citizenship, which at the moment is de facto the residency, And I believe that that's something that the Citizenship Committee in particular and the Minister for Citizenship will be actively involved with. And I want the committees to deliver results in all 12 areas. So finally, what will I do if you re-elect me? Specifically, here's my plan if elected in the next 5 years, and I can say it in just a few words. I want to work with the chairs of committees to make work plans really work, so that it's not just talk. Some committees have been more effective than others. I want 12 out of 12 working really hard. And I will help in any way I can. I want to help get recognition of Asgardia in the world. The head of nation spoke specifically about that in his brief. And places like the Seychelles and perhaps Bulgaria have expressed interest. And I want to play my part in getting recognition by terrestrial nations, because that will turbocharge our direction of travel. I want those fully functioning committees, as I described. And I feel that to achieve the head of nation's ambition for recognition, we have to make sure the foreign affairs function really works well so that we get recognition by nations on earth. On a technical point, I have usually not voted until now. I have remained neutral, but I recognize that can be confusing for people. So subject to some debate with colleagues, I would expect to set the precedent that the Chair of Parliament does vote, usually or almost always in favour, because by the time things are on the agenda, I should be able to commit to their validity. That's a small change. But finally, the most important thing is I want to be here for you. I hope that I will always be available, not too formal, and when there's a good reason for it, to come to where you are physically. The best examples recently we've had were the pioneering visit organised by Ben Dell when he was still in Parliament to Cape Town, which got thousands of new followers, and the Turkish visit to Istanbul, which was keeping a promise I'd made. There is talk of an organised tour right across the world with specific targets for increasing residency. And if I can do that, that would be another ambition. I can't promise yet on that, but that is one of my ambitions. Colleagues, I've done my best in the last 5 years. Sometimes I can honestly say your feedback has helped me see things I can do better. If you do select me for the next 5 years, I'll continue doing my best. And together, I hope we can actually realize the dreams and ambitions that we have and which were established by our visionary leader, the head of nation. Thanks very much indeed. Back to you, Jörn, and then you can hand it back to me.
Thank you, Lambert. So now we'll pass the floor back to you, Lambert, please.
Thank you, Jörn. And now I return to my role as Chair of Parliament. Just on a technical point there, since I'm the only candidate, your options are yes, no, or abstain. And those are your options. If you vote no, then the position remains vacant and it will be open for nominations again. If you vote yes in majority, then I will be the chair for the next 5 years. If you abstain, then you're not expressing an opinion and perhaps you feel you don't know enough about me and that's why you would abstain. But please do vote yes or no or abstain, because you have the right, and I would suggest the duty to decide who chairs this parliament. It's a very important role and one of the 4 individuals who are on the Supreme Space Council. And I have to say, it's a very inspiring role that I've had. I would say it's actually the most inspiring role I've had in my political career. So please vote there. You'll find the process of voting quite straightforward. If there are any problems, then please do tell me and we'll be very able to assist you in that process. One last question I was asked is why I'm the only candidate. It was in fact open to all colleagues here, not just to me. Every colleague was entitled to apply, and there was no reason for people not to. It was a free choice, but of course, as I've always said, if I got re-elected, I would stand, and that's why I put my nomination in. The other question was the term, which I've already mentioned. It is for the next 5 years. I think there may have been a little bit of confusion about the vote we had yesterday. That was for the 3-day session, this 3-day session. as acting chair. And then today we've just been discussing the next 5 years also. One last historical point. As the head of nation said, 5 years ago to the day, we elected our first chair and we sat for the first time. So we now sit together on a historic date for Asgardia, which is the 24th of June. And I just want to add my thanks once more to the head of nation for giving all of us the opportunity to be involved in a world-changing and hopefully a space-changing adventure. With that, we finish on that point. Let's move on to the next item. Today won't be a very long session because it is unusual, it's procedural. It's the first session in a new parliament, and oftentimes all over the world, these first sessions are a little bit shorter than the usual sittings because, for example, we're not discussing legislation today. It would be premature. We could not do that until we have all of these individuals and committees formally in place. So we now move on to another item. And this relates to the appointment of the Prime Minister. What is the difference between appointment and election? You have the chance to elect the Chair of Parliament because the electorate is the 150 members of Parliament. When it comes to the Prime Minister is appointed by us, but proposed by the Supreme Space Council. For those who are new, let me say that the Supreme Space Council is the supreme body of the Asgardian political system, and it consists of the heads of each of the parts of the Asgardian civic society. And that Supreme Space Council spends a lot of time thinking about the big things that we have to own in terms of decisions. We take a big responsibility in Asgardia to make sure that certain items and matters, some of them the most difficult matters facing Asgardia, are dealt with. One of the happy but very important elements is the appointment of Prime Minister. And the way this works for new colleagues is that the Supreme Space Council considers candidates and then makes one recommendation to Parliament. So we do not nominate people. We consider the proposal from the Supreme Space Council, and then we agree or disagree, or we abstain on that. There's a very good reason for this. It's because the level of investigation that one has to do, that Asgardia does to make sure we have the right candidate, is huge. It's a massive, massive job to look at everything that we need to have from our Prime Minister, and it's not realistic to expect all parliamentarians to be involved in that. Secondly, the Supreme Space Council must own the responsibility for making the right decision there, and that's why we seek to do that as well. Now, let me read the letter which relates to this. It's a formal document. It's not very long, but it's absolutely central to the process that we're pursuing now. And after that, I will invite the candidate, the nominee, to address us briefly. I should say now that we are not taking questions to the nominee. The precedent has been set that we do not do that. In the government hour, when we do have a Prime Minister, it's an open forum and people can ask questions, and it's in fact encouraged to the Minister and the Prime Minister and the Ministers. But today we can have a debate, but the Prime Minister candidate is not obliged to take those questions, and we're not going to follow the process in that sense. So this document comes from the Supreme Space Council, and technically it's from Dimitri Dorin Brunariu, the Secretary of the Supreme Space Council of Asgardia. The subject is recommending the candidacy of the Prime Minister for a vote, and it's addressed to the Parliament of Asgardia and is dated the 1st of Leo 0007. That's the 18th of June 2023 in terrestrial calendar. And here is the text. Pursuant to Article 35, Item 4 of the Constitution of Asgardia, after considering nominees for the position of Prime Minister of Asgardia, the Supreme Space Council and its Minutes 10, Item 1, of the SSC meeting dated 1st Leo 0007, that's the 18th of June 2023, recommends Mrs. Lena de Winner for the position of Prime Minister of Asgardia. Please put the item to a vote of Parliament of Asgardia on 7 Leo 0007, that's the 24th of June 2023, and it's signed Dimitri Dorin Prunaru, the SSC, that's the Supreme Space Council Secretary. That has been sent to me to read to you, and it means that formally the previous Prime Minister, Mrs. Lena de Winner, has been recommended to you as the appointment. Let me, before we open the debate for ourselves, and remember the Prime Minister by convention does not, the candidate does not participate in a question and answer, but let me invite the Prime Minister, if the candidate, if she would like to address our Parliament for whatever period of time she would like to. Lena de Winner, welcome to our Parliament. Let me hand the floor to you.
Thank you very much, dear Lambert. Dear colleagues, dear parliamentarians, it's an honor to greet you today. Hello to the old friends and my warmest welcome to the people I'm just meeting for the first time. I will very briefly introduce myself to those who do not know me. I'm with Asgardia from day one, literally. I was also helping our founder, Dr. Shurbeli, the head of nation, in the preparation of putting it forward. And I served in various capacities to the nation, the last one of which was the Prime Minister of the second cabinet. You would have seen us, the cabinet, reporting on our activities. We made group events. We have regularly published results of our meetings and the progress we achieved. I feel very honored to be in charge of this extraordinary group of professionals who each of them have excelled in their day jobs and chose to invest their knowledge and wisdom into developing their areas of knowledge in Asgardia, the same like each of you have chosen to contribute to Asgardia by volunteering your time and knowledge and networks and commitment to building out our nation. I will be much shorter than your candidate chairman talking to you today. I am in a different capacity, of course. I just want to reassure everybody that I, as a Prime Minister to be, if you vote me in, maintain all my dedication and all my commitments, which have already been displayed. And if you entrust me with this position, of course, I will be soon presenting to you candidates for the positions of the ministers. So thank you for your attention, and I hope for good collaboration between all of us.
Many thanks, Prime Minister, and it's very good to see you, and it has been a real inspiration to work with you together with the head of nation and the head of administration across the last years. I should also add that the candidate's unique contribution, in my view, was to create a stable government, which turned out to be very difficult. And I can say it, even if she doesn't, to see the government process, which was a huge mountain to climb, turn into a functioning cabinet has been both a relief and also a source of great encouragement, because it really meant things got done between committees and ministers. We'll discuss more about that tomorrow. For now, though, I invite colleagues to speak or ask questions or make any commentary that they would like to in order to make any point that's not clear, or indeed if you want to express your opinions about the candidate. We are an open democracy, and therefore you're perfectly entitled to say what you wish to say. We always treat each other with respect, but that's the nature of a democracy, that we get the right to have these discussions. Be aware also that it is an appointment, as I say, so there is no mechanism to propose other candidates. The question is, do you support the nomination of Lena de Winner by the Supreme Space Council, or do you not support it? Let's go to Sanat next. Sanat, good afternoon to you, and then we'll go to Ross.
Thank you very much, Lambert. I fully and wholeheartedly support the candidature of Lena de Win for the post of Prime Minister. And I would say that I have known her since the beginning of Asgardia when I first met her before Asgardia was formed in Montreal. And I think it's been a great journey and her leadership has been great. I fully endorse and I fully recommend to all my colleagues that we should all agree to make her the Prime Minister. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Sanat. Always good to hear from you as well. Ross, good afternoon, just
Thank you.
in the UK. Over to you for what you would like to say, Ross Cheesewright, who I should say has been involved for a long, long time. Ross.
Thank you very much, Lambert. Yeah, a lot to unpack here. I just wanted to start by saying what a treat it was to hear from the head of nation, whose vision has allowed us this opportunity to be united in this cause. So thank you very much for that. Yeah, I just want to say I have been in Asgardia for a long, long time. I've had the privilege of working with the candidate, Lena de Winner. Very hardworking, very fair, and expects results from her people. So I can say with the utmost confidence that I will be supporting the candidate. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ross. And I should say the only reason that Ross wasn't in Parliament earlier was because he was too young. We did not change the Constitution just for his sake. But Ross's perseverance is a testimony to the staying power of our Parliament. And it is really very encouraging to me to see you with us today. And also very pleased to hear what you had to say about Lena de Winner. You know her more than most people. We have a former minister next. It is Philip Appleby, also in the United Kingdom. Philip, over to you. You'll need to unmute yourself, of course.
I keep forgetting we keep changing. Sometimes it used to be the chair used to unmute you. Never mind.
Yes. Well, things have changed since you were in Parliament before.
Well,
it's an evolution.
I was just going to say with Ross, it's going from the youngest to the oldest. I've worked with Lena as a parliamentarian, as a chair of committee, and also as a minister. Lena is extremely effective administration, and she is a wonderful person to actually get to work with, and she has clear visions of where Asgardia could go and how it is going. And I have absolutely no hesitation whatsoever in praising her and saying to all my fellow Asgardians, this is a great Prime Minister. Do not lose the chance to vote for her. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Philip. And at the personal level, I'm very pleased that you have rejoined Parliament. You are the first minister to come back to Parliament. It also means that you have had direct experience of working in the cabinet, which means that your perspective carries a lot of gravitas, I believe.
Thank you very much, Chair.
Well, I look forward to working with you in the 5 years ahead as well. We don't know each other all that well, but I'm looking forward to getting to know you a lot better in the 5 years ahead. Let's move on to John Fine in the United States. Good morning, John. Thanks for getting up so early. Always good to see you. John Fine, for those who don't know him, was the architect of one of the most sophisticated pieces of legislation that we have, the ACE Act, the Asgardia Companies and Enterprise Act. And he has worked and met the Prime Minister, being one of the, I believe, the original Asgardian members of Parliament and having attended Vienna and also Tallinn. John, over to you.
Thank you. Yes, Lena has been one of the things that I really appreciated about her was she was a very active Prime Minister. You can always count on her advice. It was good, it was thorough, and it was exact. I mean, you could take the Constitution or whatever document we had, and her information was always on the money. It was never wrong, and I really appreciated that. I relied on that, and I certainly enjoyed working with in Parliament, working with her. I know my minister was always talking great things about her, and he enjoyed working with her as well. So she's definitely got my support, and I ask that everybody else give her your support as well. She is a great prime minister, and we are fortunate to have her with us. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed. John, you've been here from the start. You've been able to see the whole process, really, of our progress as a parliament. And I think, once again, you speak with authority. I'm moving to Ariadne Gallardo now, and she's in South America. Once again, a good early morning to you, perhaps even earlier than John's. Over to you. Just to explain, Ariadne has once again been very active all the way through since the beginning of Asgardia. So over to you.
Muchas gracias. Realmente,
Thank you very much. Really, Lambit, whoever stays and listening to the words of the head of the nation, of affirmation of what we are as a parliament, and listening to Lena and this moment as a candidate, it is really a happiness. I am very sensitive. I always say things out of formality. But many of you have inspired me, and the things that I have written, and I never told her that for me she is the lady with the balance, the justice, the lady of justice, and she gives us that equilibrium. That is for me Lena the win. So blindly I can put my vote for Lena and also for Lambit. Thank you.
Thank you, Ariadne. Just to clarify, of course, that one of those is an election, which is for me. This is an appointment, which is for the Prime Minister. It looks the same. Technically, it's just a little bit different. I only make that clear for the record because what we discussed today is archived and will form a precedent for future parliaments for the centuries ahead. Luca, who is the former chair of the Science Committee and joins us now, one of the great scientific minds of Asgardia. Good afternoon to you, Luca. Hope you're well. Over to you.
Hello, yes, everything fine. And good afternoon to everybody, and welcome to the new member of parliament. Really excited to work and looking forward to work with you in the next 5 years. Just since I think I was chairing a committee in the last term, I think it's just fair that I say a few words myself like everybody else is doing. So I have absolutely no doubt that both Lambit and Lena are the perfect candidates for continuing these operations. They both performed excellently last term, and working with Lambit, who was more directly in touch, I was more directly in touch with, has been always very smooth and easy. So there's absolutely nothing to say. It's I will not be able to see any other option alternative to that. So Lambit, glad to see you're still there and looking forward to keep on working with you. And about Lena, we did communicate much less because she's not chair of the parliament. But anytime that I tried to interact with her, there was a fast response and always very, very executive-like, like giving solutions to problems. And that's a quality that I think it's like essential for a prime minister. So great to hear you. To hear you're still here with us in this role, and looking forward again to get interaction stronger. So thank you, and very happy to keep on going.
Thank you, Luca, for those kind words, which of course put me under great pressure should I get reappointed. I won't be able to let you down.
If I may add one thing, I think the only thing you can really improve is the prediction of when you're going to finish a meeting in time. That's, you're still missing something there.
Just to explain, in the past, Luca used to complain that my meetings ran over time. Now they usually run under time. I'm surprised you're complaining about that. Let's move on to Sergei Morozov, who, of course, is a master of time himself, who has done a great deal in terms of calendars and clocks when it comes to Asgardia.
Dear colleagues, I'm listening. Dear colleagues, I'm glad to welcome you. I would like to emphasize that Lena de Winne is an ideal prime minister. I know her very well, and I request all of you to vote for her, because we can never have a better candidate for a prime minister. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Sergei. The opportunity for any of you to share is still open. I have one more speaker now, but just before I I'll come to Clive Simpson's interesting comment in just a moment, and also from Ada. In fact, let me just read, Ada, just before you speak, let me just read these two. Clive Simpson, who is an AMP, says, I have worked closely with both Lembit Opik and Lena de Winne since the beginning of Asgardia and have huge respect for them both. I have no hesitation in voting for Lembit as Chair of Parliament and endorsing Lena as Prime Minister. Thank you for that. Clive also leads the work on the best space magazine ever created. It's called Room Magazine, and you will be able to see that as Asgardian members of Parliament. I use it as a tool to promote Asgardia, and that's Clive Simpson's work. It's a real pleasure to work with you also, and we do not meet often enough in the United Kingdom. Ada from South America says, Lena de Winne from Women to Women. She's a strong person in her work, very responsible, very professional in her field. So thank you for that. Ricky, I'm not sure if you're saying you'd like to speak. If you do want to speak, you're welcome to do so. Just raise your hand. Let's go to Ross Cheesewright again. Ross, over to you again.
Sorry for coming back for round two. I was very focused on speaking about Lena, and I did want to just talk a little bit about Lembit Opik as well. Again, I've known Lembit for many years, since the beginning of Asgardia. I don't think I've ever met any Asgardian, save for a few obvious names, who have the passion and the belief in Asgardia that Lembit has. Lembit has this way of kind of conjuring up the romanticism of journeying into the future to live in space, but tempers it with a real pragmatism from his experience. So I've been there in the early meetings of the first Parliament as a reporter, somebody able to kind of witness these things from the outside objectively. And it's not just the fact that he does a good job, but because of his experience as a earthly politician, he's been able to kind of uplift and mentor who were essentially quite a big group of people who were not politicians, who didn't have political experience in legislation, to actually deliver quality legislation that we're starting to see come out for Asgardia. So in that way, he's kind of mentored and sort of brought up that first generation. And, you know, I'm very incredibly thankful to the first generation of Parliament who, you know, standing on the shoulders of giants. And it's for that reason why I would say to everybody to also seriously consider supporting Lembit. And I'm sure many of you already are. So yeah, thank you. That's all I wanted to say.
Well, thank you very much indeed. It's unexpected and flattering that you say so. I've known Ross for a long time as well, and it's reciprocal. I'm really glad that you've been elected, and it means that we can actually do work together in the United Kingdom as well. Physically, there are some projects I'd like to talk with you about in the future. Just one other point from a procedural perspective. Although we are discussing the appointment of the head of the Prime Minister, not the head of nation, the Prime Minister, I'm allowing people to make comments about both roles because we didn't really have that debate earlier on. And there's a synergy between the Chair of Parliament and the Prime Minister. They do have to work together. Asgardia's civic system would not work if the head of nation could not trust the Prime Minister and the Chair of Parliament and indeed the head of administration to work collectively together. So I've made the executive judgment to allow those comments to continue, and I hope that is okay. Ricky, you're next in the Philippines. Good evening to you. A more satisfactory time for you than usual, I think.
Oh, yeah. Good evening, everybody. Limpidopic is the best choice for Chair of Parliament at this time, even though it's the second Parliament. He has the experience, and there's still things that need to be ironed out and worked out and such, so that Parliament continues as smoothly as it has come the third Parliament, the fourth, and so on. Lena, she's a good Prime Minister. She's fair. She expects people to do what they need to do, and she doesn't ask any more of them than what she could do herself. And I appreciate that fact. And I'm waiting for her to have another debate with Jesse Waters. She'll know what I'm talking about. But also, too, I'll also be interested to see who Limpet, if he's elected, chooses as his co-chairs. That was a good thing to have last time also. So that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed, Ricky. I'll remind us that we're primarily discussing the Prime Minister's role, but I think especially to new parliamentarians and to viewers at home, you can see the exceptional quality of our parliament, where instead of there being tensions between people in the higher positions, there is that synergy I spoke about before. What seems different to me about Asgardia's parliament is really the insistence that we do not have political parties, which, as I said in the document that was shared with you all, seem to serve themselves rather than the public. And I know that when I work with Lena de Winner, she works for the public, not for herself, and does it without complaint. I also, as I said to you, if I get reappointed by you, said that I would express my opinion in a vote. So I will be taking a more executive role. I know it's something which is desired, that I show some more leadership in the voting side, and I've taken that on board, and that's why I'm saying that. So I'm certainly going to be voting for Lena de Winner. I don't think that should be a very big surprise. Further, before we go to further, let me just read some of the comments here. Some people prefer to do it in writing. Ariadne has added, Luca, as a more specific comment, I might add that both Lena and Lembit have a strong science-orientated approach, which I deem crucial for Asgardia. For colleagues who haven't read my curriculum vitae, my father was a nuclear physicist and my grandfather was an astronomer. And I know that Lena has very, very good knowledge, especially of the European Space Agency. And it was, I think, largely thanks to her connections that we've been able to go through there. And one of the most interesting trips of my life, where we even ate astronaut food, which is cheap to make, but very expensive to deliver. The other comment here, Ada to Lembit is a battlefield. I'm not sure I see myself as a battlefield, but I understand what you mean. Thank you for that, Ada. And Green Master says, good morning, everyone. I appreciate the opportunity to participate in something as important as this meeting, together with people who want to change the world. Asgardia needs us. I have little understanding of English. My native language is Portuguese, Brazil. I'm watching the live with the help of subtitle translation. Sorry for not being able to talk, but I'm very happy to be a part of a visionary group. I want to help Asgardia. Well, first of all, welcome, Guri. And we are always working on improving translation systems. One of the things I'd like to do is to make it easy for everybody to achieve that. We are blessed with Lena having many languages at her disposal. And perhaps that's one of the reasons Riadel says that Lena will have her vote. Ariadne says we're both amazing. Thank you for that. Kashif Sheikh says, one more thing to add about Lena is that she is the person who holds each and everyone together. Yes. Ross Cheesewright says something very positive there, echoing sentiments that Lena Dwinner and Lematopic are the only people that I can envisage in these roles. In a way, I wouldn't be in Asgardia without them. In our fledgling state, they're the safest hands we can be, and they're part of the DNA of the nation, 100%. Just to say that other people can do these jobs too, and one day they'll have to. One of our missions is to create an Asgardia so strong that other people can be ex officio in the positions that we're currently occupying, and that Asgardia doesn't falter or stall as a result. I certainly want Asgardia to have that independence and the ability for other people to do these jobs too. Victor says, I was also underage for the first Parliament. Lena Dwinner, you have my vote. I hope we can work together far away from our age or native territories and share our beautiful culture and thinking. My partners remind you that I'm a Spanish native speaker. And es un placer poder trabajar con todos. Liz will tell me later if I said that badly or not. Two more. Janati Gusev says, I think that Lena and Embit are the team that works. I think they both deserve to be elected. Thank you. And one more. Jamie Ramoni says, good morning, greetings. Proud to be in Asgardia, country of origin, Venezuela. Excellent translation. I have been indeed in Caracas, and I liked it very much. If anybody who is new wants to speak, do not feel intimidated. You'll be given a warm welcome, and you may have a question, you may have a comment. Don't worry if you have only just joined Parliament. You will be embraced and welcomed and supported by existing veterans of the Parliament. It's our mission to make you feel welcome and to be part of our family. I can see Carol raising her hands, and this is definitely true. You will never have worked with a more positive-minded group of people, and I say that with confidence. One of those positive-minded people who hosted me so generously when I was in Istanbul some weeks ago speaks next, and it's Ferda. Ferda, always great to see you in digital form as well as physically.
Çok teşekkür ederim Mr. Lambert.
Thank you so much, Mr. Lambert, and I would like to also thank Lena Devin. I have to take the floor. I respect, of course, your role as a parliament chair, Mr. Öpik. I know that you keep things very strong. But I just wish from you or request from you to leave us a little bit free this time. I know that you like keeping things tight, but of course we will do mistakes, but we will learn by our mistakes. Of course, nothing will come automatically. So please rest assured that we are going to be fine. We will do a great work together. I just request a little bit more, I don't know, freedom, let's say, or some space to move. I just wanted to emphasize that my vote is yours, but I just have this tiny request.
Thank you. If your vote is mine, my duty is to you. I take that feedback, and for another time, I am very interested in hearing what you think I can do differently and better. Seriously, I want to do better. I want you to feel liberated. I always feel happiest when colleagues do the work and seem to get the praise, because my mission is to help you be the best that you can be. So that's an interesting point that you make, and I'm sure when you explain how I can do that, I will do so as well. So thanks for that, and thanks for your vote, but I take that with humility, and I look forward to coming to Turkey as soon as I can for our next meeting. And I hope one of the things I should have said is that I hope that we can actually produce some sort of a large meeting in Turkey, because there is so much interest in Asgardia. I noticed that when I was there. John, you're next.
Yes. Yeah, I just wanted to add it since we could say something about you, and this pertains to Lena too. But one of the things that that I appreciated the most about Lambert and Lena was that not only were they officials in Asgardia, but they were friends, and that's a big deal, because too many people I've worked for in the past or worked with that were in some type of administrative role or leadership role were not friends. And friendship is a big thing for me. I think that you can carry on with a role as a leader and still be friends with the people that you lead. I know I always use that type of leadership style. It's called the participative leadership style, and where basically you don't talk down to the people you're leading. You're working with them. You're as equals, and people appreciated that in me when I use that leadership style. And my workers always worked harder when they knew that I appreciated them as much as they appreciated me. So, and you get that with Lena, and you get that with Lambert. Lambert was always calling me, saying, "Hey, John, you got any concerns? You got anything you need?" And and that might not seem like a big deal, but he's calling from Great Britain. That costs money, because I know I called him a couple of times, and it made my phone bill go up quite a bit. So but it is a big deal, and the fact that he actually took the time out of his time to call me, this little old country boy in Georgia, USA. So when I went to Vienna, people like Lena and Lambert, they're the first to welcome you, and they're the first to make you feel like you're wanted and you're needed, and I mean it's like they've known you all their lives, and I would say just about everybody in Parliament was that way. When we would meet together, I really enjoyed our physical meetings, because it was very personal, and it was professional, but it was personal too, and we had a lot of good times together. After the meetings were over, we had a lot of good times afterwards, except for Estonia. I got a little sick in Estonia and missed out on a lot of great fun, but things happen. But we learned something very crucial in Estonia, that Asgardia takes care of you when you're sick too. So, and I got to be one of the participants in that learning endeavor. So, yeah, I just wanted to add that not only are they professionals and they're leaders, but they're also personal friends, and that's a very good quality in a leadership role. Thank you.
Thank you, John. To explain, John got seriously ill in our physical meeting in Tallinn, but we were still able, Asgardia is so inventive, we were still able to include him in our events digitally from his hospital bed. And the head of nation sent greetings and very kind gift to John when he was ill, because that's the kind of person that our head of nation is. That's the second point. I'm sure that Lena Duina would agree. The force that holds us together the, if you like, in gravitational terms, the planet that we orbit is the head of nation, because he's created this solar system of Asgardia. And I am actually really inspired by what he did, what he does. From the first time I learned of Asgardia, I wanted to be a part of it. And I had underestimated how big this would become in my life. But John's right. If you really believe in this, then there is no limit to what we can do. And especially I would say this to new Asgardian members of Parliament, because the existing ones know this. We are taking on the responsibility for defining the culture of space. I know that Lena de Winner feels very strongly about the importance of culture as part of the process of our evolution, because everything from how we greet each other through to how we interact in these digital meetings is an evolution. I said 5 years ago that I expected, 5 years ago today, I expected our culture to evolve organically. And we'll talk about this tomorrow in terms of the Culture Committee. Well, it has. And John, it's a pleasure to work with you. And John is the most improved person in the whole of Parliament in terms of education. John decided to learn things, and he honoured me by asking me to help him, which is why he had the high phone bills. But he got the degree, and he is now qualified beyond all measure compared to where he started. And you can do that with Asgardia because you get great minds here, and we're all willing to say yes. Just to say to Lena de Winner, he doesn't have to take this on, but when we finish, which will be shortly, if Lena does want to say anything else, she's welcome to do so, just to raise her hand. There's no obligation. It's just in case she wants to. I realize I've done a lot of the talking. Now, I don't see any other hands raised at the moment, and I'll just read some. I will go to Lena shortly. I will read some more of the comments then. Jason Berry simply says, Lena, and does the hand thing that I can't do. That's it, in fact. Yes, well done, Jason. Thank you. I learned a new skill there. Tanya Crandall, thank you for all your work, Lena de Winner. Azim Ayala, Lembit and Lena will continue the work. My vote for both, thank you. Ada, Lembit, I'm jealous. He didn't call me. Ah, right. John, you've made Ada jealous. So the divisions are beginning because of you, John. Ada, I'll call you when you least expect it. Before I call on Lena to speak again, just wondering if there's anybody else who wants to say anything, because Lena will have the last word. After Lena has spoken, I won't take any other contributions because I'm really giving her the chance to summate, and I won't add anything myself, because remember, we're primarily talking about the appointment of the Prime Minister, but I understand and I'm grateful for the comments made about me as well. And one last, I don't see anyone raising their hand. If anybody who has just joined us would, as a Parliament, would like to raise a hand or ask a question, please feel free to do so. You'll be welcomed, and no one's going to judge you for your question. It may be something that we already know, which should be after 5 years, so do feel free to raise your hand. My next comment would be 30 seconds, and after that, if no one has raised their hand, then I'll go to Lena to summarize this part of our, and the main final part of our day. The 30-second point was a question, and it was about what happens after the vote. It's a very fair question. Just to explain, if you re-elect me as chair, and if you re-elect Lena de Winner as Prime Minister, that would mean that the head of nation, who is already re-elected for 5 years, Lena de Winner as Prime Minister, myself as chair, will continue in the roles we had before the election. And the Dorin, whose letter I read out before, I will read it out again at the end, just after Lena's spoken, so that you know the formality of it again. He will continue his administration. So the Supreme Space Council, together with Yun Zhao, the Supreme Justice, will continue in its current form. Then we have work to do. I'll be continuing this work tomorrow anyway, in my temporary role as chair of this session, and Lena de Winner will have a role, which you might explain as well, about re-establishing the government. So the work continues immediately after 18:15 tomorrow UTC, which is when the vote closes. It's still a provisional result then, but it's never really been wrong before. Okay, nobody else has raised their hands here. So in order to summarize this final major item today, and then I have a few announcements after this, let me go back to the candidate for the position of Prime Minister Lena de Winne. Back to you, Lena.
Thank you all very much. I have also posted a note in the chat. It's humbling and overwhelming to hear all these things. Also would remind those who voted for me for the first time when I was proposed as the Prime Minister. It was somehow a rather different debate. And I remember I told you at the time that you just saved me a couple of €1,000 in attending coaches or therapists, because you discussed about me in my silent presence very interesting things. And it's very interesting to observe and hear from constructive, intelligent people what they have to say. Normally, people charge a fortune to analyze you and to give you feedback, and you can't help seeing me, so you have an opinion. So sharing was very educational at the time, because some things I took in as inputs to which I was blind before. Today's experience, it's like feel-good hug therapy. So thank you all, and I hug you all back.
Thank you very much indeed. Not many prime ministers would speak like that, but it does show that we are a family, and she means it. I just add my own feeling that the new AMP should feel encouraged that this is a welcoming environment, not an aggressive one. What you see of politics in terrestrial environments perhaps is fueled in my experience. I was an MP for 13 years, Member of Parliament in Britain. It's fueled by self-interest rather than collective interest, and that hasn't really happened in Asgardia. And if you appoint Lena, and if you reappoint me or re-elect me, I'm sure it won't happen in our watch, because the head of nation is 100% sincere about going up there, not trying to promote what's in our ambitions. His ambition is for all humankind, not just for us. Just one other point. I can see your comments there have gone down very positively, by the way, Lena. Just one other point. I'm grateful for the praise, but as Ferda pointed out, there are some things that I can maybe do differently. I'll always take that feedback, and I value it. That's why the Thursday meetings that I chair and the Wednesday meetings when we get new deputy chairs or deputy chair of Parliament, which is work to be done, that hasn't happened yet. That's very helpful to me. Nobody else has raised their hand, so I will conclude on that item. Let me remind you what you need to do before I go to the announcements and we close for the day. If you want to vote, which I hope that you very much hope that you do, then please vote using the button in your system. If you have any problems with that, don't worry, there's plenty of time. You can send a message to the parliamentary coordinator. That's the best way to do it. Then you will actually be able to get your voting sorted out. Don't sit there feeling embarrassed about asking. Everybody has to learn how to do it. So if you're not sure how to do it, then just ask. And then this does require a formal vote. Just talking isn't enough. You need to express a vote. You can vote yes, no, or abstain. Let me just go back to today. Now, I think did you want to speak again? I saw your hand coming up for a moment. Not sure if that was conscious or not. If you want to speak, then just raise your hand again, Lena. We'll just give you the space again. So the voting is important. And thank you as well for the comments that you've made about me. Colleagues will know and will be able to tell you the things I don't do so well as well. I know them. I always try to get better, but that's the lesson, that's the learning journey, isn't it? With that, we conclude on that item with me just reminding you of what the Secretary of the Supreme Space Council of Asgardia says. That's Dimitri Dorin Prunario. And that is that he asked me to put the item to a vote of Parliament of Asgardia on 7th Leo 0007, that's 24th of June 2023, recommending Mrs. Lena de Winne for the position of Prime Minister of Asgardia. And just so that we're absolutely clear, if you vote yes in majority, then she becomes or continues as Prime Minister. If you vote no, then she will not be in that position, but will need to do so again. Then we'll need to reopen nominations and consider what the situation is. And that'll go back to the SSC, Supreme Space Council. If you vote yes for me for Chair of Parliament, then I continue for 5 more years. If you vote no, then the position remains vacant and nominations will be open again in a process which will be decided by the Counting Commission and the Mandate Commission. And no doubt Marcus Brombach would then have a major role in that. Are there any questions before I get to my final announcements for the day? Godfrey says that was some desktop screen. Yes, one colleague accidentally shared the desktop. That's okay. It happens to us all. Jason says vote for Lena and Blembit. Thank you for that. Thank you. Sanat, you had your hand raised from a... Did you want to say something or was it just inadvertent? Okay. Right, so let me go to announcements. And the way this works, colleagues, for new ones, is I start on the announcements. Oh, Jason, okay, yeah, let's go to Jason, and then I'll explain the announcements process. Jason, over to you. You're on mute. You need to unmute yourself, Jason.
Hello, hey, so you hear me now?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. Thank you. A question about you talk about definitely for Shaki the ID or is about for verification that you have or after the vote of the sheriff and prime minister.
What we're doing is just in terms of the two roles that we're electing are the prime minister, appointing the prime minister for the next 5 years and the chair of parliament for the next 5 years. I'm the candidate for the chair of parliament and Lena is the candidate for prime minister. And you can vote yes, no, or abstain. If you abstain, then your vote doesn't count for or against, but the votes for and against do count. I should also say, because as Marcus Brombach earlier on confirmed, we are quorate, all of the decisions we make have full constitutional standing. So they are final decisions that we make. So let me go to, Ferda says you need to log into Asgardia page with your parliamentarian mail. Yes, that is necessary as well in order to vote. If you have problems, then just do please let me know. I'm more than happy to assist. So let me summarize then what we've done today. We have got the business done effectively so far. What we've covered today is the important business of opening formally with the initial feedback from Saltanat from the Counting Commission and Marcus from the Mandate Commission. They are the chairs, confirming the provisional vote yesterday was in fact reflected in the formal vote. The numbers are a little bit different because the formal vote will have been affected by the debate and so forth, but it's very similar to what we had yesterday. And there is no doubt the outcome was the same yesterday as it is in the interim voting today. So we can be confident those are the correct results. Marcus also confirmed that we have a quorum, and that's very important because it means that this sitting was officially commenced and carries full legal validity. The most important thing today, I believe, was the Head of Nations speech, the founder of Asgardia. His address will be available, and of course it was recorded as well. I found it inspirational and 100% consistent with what he said 5 years ago today in Vienna, when our magnificent parliamentary journey began formally. Yun Zhao has been reappointed as Supreme Justice, and he made his welcome address as well, and then chaired while my opportunity to give you my manifesto commitment, if you choose to re-elect me as Chair of Parliament, was read out by me. I said once again, it was open to all parliamentarians. I applied, and you can vote yes, no, or abstain. And then we have been speaking for some time about the Supreme Space Council's recommendation for the candidature of Prime Minister of Asgardia. That's Lena de Winner. She is the person who spoke, and you heard what she had to say, and she's the person we know. And you heard third parties speaking about her with a very intelligent use of the chat box as well by colleagues. What do you need to do next? Well, 3 things. First of all, please do vote on those matters. You do need to formally register your votes as usual. Secondly, you will hear the result of those votes tomorrow at 18:15, which is the official closing of the votes, and we will conclude the session shortly after that. And thirdly, we need to do verifications, which we will focus on mainly tomorrow, not today. And so for those of you who have not yet been verified, and I can organize that outside this meeting now, I don't want to waste everyone's time on individual things. We will reach out to you. If you see myself or parliamentary coordinator contacting you, please do respond, because we want to get everybody verified so that you're legitimately and officially recognized as an Asgardian member of parliament. It's a quick process, but we do need to do it just to make sure that everybody is validly recognized. Any questions on that before I go to final points, which are small matters which have been raised during the day? James says, how would the voting be right now? We don't usually go into the online interim voting. We've only done it this time because we had to get the Counting Commission and the Mandate Commission in place so that we could do everything else. And we needed a interim chair of Parliament as well, so that we could do these meetings. But Ross Cheesewright has put in the chat, voting is now on the website, and that's where you can go for the purpose of voting. So if you look at 12:45, that's 11:45 UTC, whatever time in the chat, it's about 4 or 5 points back. Ross is explaining how to do it. Then that would be the way to vote. Ross, can I just ask you, I'm putting you on the spot here, but do you want to just explain verbally to everybody, just for safety, how people should vote? I'm going to ask you to unmute
real quick,
to do that.
I had a question. So I was on the website and it only allowed us to vote for the just the proving those specific issues for the meeting, not for the actual individuals, like voting for you and Mr. Wynn. So I don't know if that's the actual link though.
Let me go to Ross. Sorry, it's a good question. One of the things when I'm chairing, I cannot easily go out of this screen to go and check the other thing. So the thing that you've asked, because it takes me away from the chairing. So I'm not able to check that right now. But Ross, I'm going to just ask you if you're able just to explain a little bit. You know how the system works.
Yeah, sure. So when you're logged into your account, hang on, give me 1 second and I'll just
you could screen share if you're willing to do it, but
yeah, that's the plan. Yeah, I'm just going to get back to Asgardia.space and I'll take it from there.
I just to explain what Ross is doing, I'm doing this because it's very important in these early days that we continue to make it easy for you to participate. Here it comes now.
Okay, so
thanks, Ross.
From here on your profile, you'll see a voting option. You need to be logged in with your parliamentary email address. This will log you into the voting system itself. And then you'll see all of the active polls here. So it tells you in progress, which is for this sitting. Then you can go in there and it's all transparent anyway. So it's fine if you see my voting record here. So each of these are the items that we've been voting on. So this is for the initial agenda. This is for the temporary chair. This is for Marcus and the Counting Commission. And then we have the proposal of the election of the Chair of Parliament, which is Lembit. And then we have the appointment of the Prime Minister, which is Lena de Winner. So go through, vote yes, no, or abstain. And they will be counted by the Counting Commission in due course. So hopefully that's clear.
Please leave that up for a minute, Ross. Thank you, Ross. That's very helpful. I wasn't able to do that from where I was because I'm chairing. Just to explain to you, Kobe, that means on number 2, that was a show of hands we did yesterday, election for chair of this meeting between myself and Ariadne, and we agreed that if you vote yes for that, it's me. If you vote no for that, then it's Ariadne. Obviously, there's a chronology issue there because by the time we get the formal result, the event will be over. But we had to make some pragmatic decision to recognise the need to do that. So on number 2, it's yes for Lembit, and it's no for Ariadne, if you want Ariadne to be chairing. Election of Mandate Commission and its chair, Ross explained. Election of Chair of Parliament, since there's just one candidate, you either vote yes for me or no for me or abstain. So if you vote no, then the position remains vacant. If you vote yes in majority, then I get it. I get to I get elected again, and I get to I am then responsible for chairing for the next 5 years. Appointment of Prime Minister, we have one candidate, so it's yes to Lena de Winne, no to Lena de Winne, or abstain. Does that answer your? Thank you, Ross. That was very helpful. Does that answer your question, Kobe?
Yes, it does. So because there's only one candidate for each of the positions, the Parliament Minister, so we're going to be using this to address the voting decisions.
That's exactly right. If there were multiple candidates, then we would need to vote in a slightly different way. Now, as it turns out, we don't this time have that issue. But if we did have, then it would be a little bit different.
Excellent. Thank you.
It's
Thank you very much.
No problem. You'll find that sometimes we actually do these things on a pragmatic basis just to get the thing done, get the work done, and that's what's happened on this occasion. But we always get there. There have been some times when we've even postponed legislation because of the quality of concern and the nature of concerns. Ariadne was heavily involved in a very complex piece of legislation, and so was the ACE Act, actually, John Fine's ACE Act, where we returned many times. And that's one of the challenges of chairing the sessions, but we work these things through together because no one's trying to defeat anybody else. We're trying to win collectively. So it's a very good question. Thanks for asking that, Kobe. And thank you, Ross, for screen sharing. Hopefully that makes it a bit easier. Once again, I will, technically I'm not the chair at the moment, but I will be voting. Until now, I've just voted for the agenda. The agenda vote is really a quorum vote because it makes no sense, really, if you vote against the agenda, because if you vote for things in the agenda and then vote against the agenda, it doesn't make a lot of sense. But the etiquette has been, you have the right to vote yes or no to the agenda, and that is the quorum vote as well, which Marcus referred to earlier on. Just a couple of points from the chat. Gui says, I want to say it's really cool to be part of this moment. Yes, I agree. I always feel very special and very honored from the very outset when I first chaired one of these sessions in Vienna. When at that point I was just the acting chair as well, actually, on the 24th of June, 5 years ago today, the first digital sitting, which made world history for democracy. It's still the wonder of this moment has never left me. Ross has explained the process. Kashif Sheikh's done the voting. Well done. James has said something in Spanish, which I won't allow myself to be criticized with bad pronunciation, but you'll see what James says there. Jason, how do we know if we still need our identity verified? We'll contact you. We will proactively contact you to get your identity verified, and we'll check what the status is for you and for everybody else. The vote, Ricky, the vote for chair and prime minister is in that list now. It's yes, no for chair, and yes, no for prime minister because there's one candidate in each case. And the result will be announced at 18:15 tomorrow. And as Brian says, since there's only one candidate, you can vote yes, no for those. Our names are not listed in the vote, but think about it this way. It's yes if you want Lena, no if you do not want Lena, yes if you want Lembit, no if you don't want Lembit. Well, sorry, precisely. Yes if you want Lembit, no if you want the vacancy to remain open for new candidates. And Jamie, if there's an issue there, we can resolve that later if it's taking it to a different place. Benedetto is asking what are the next steps of the current meeting today. Let me tell you now. The next steps is we will shortly conclude, and then we will continue as Carol says, then we will continue tomorrow. When we conclude, then the business will recommence tomorrow at I think it's 14:30 UTC, and it will be 3 3/4 hours. The process tomorrow is to get the committees sorted out mainly, and so it's a working session. You'll be able to hear a bit more about what I said yesterday with the new improved version of that presentation, where I will invite colleagues from those committees to say a little bit about those committees too. We'll have a break in the middle of that session too. But by 18:15, I hope that most of us will have decided which committees we're on. And I recommend that you're on 1 or 2 committees. It's bad practice not to be on any committee at all. I think that others then will feel that you're not doing enough in Asgardia. So please do think about at least 1 committee and maybe 2. So Benedetto, when we finish today, we will be doing some individual verifications, reaching out to individuals, but we will contact you for that. And so do please be patient and observant if we do contact you. And we need to get all 150 verified. Most people have been verified, but we'll need to get all 150 done. And we'd like to get that done by the end of business tomorrow. As Carol says, when we finish in about 5 minutes time, then when we get to the maximum number who attended -1, that's when we close the debate and close the session. Ricky's right, all names for all votes are listed so that you can see how everybody voted. That's in terms of how you vote, but just in terms of the yes, no, because we have 1 candidate for Chair of Parliament, 1 candidate for Prime Minister, we can do it as a yes, no. And I think that's most of the points. Ariadne says, please do not use grey background. Yeah, I note that. There are standard colors which I've used. I have had the presentation from yesterday fixed, and hopefully it'll look better tomorrow. And James, the verification will be online. And you'll need just to have your visual ID for that, and that applies to everybody. Okay, I've got 2 other questions I've received today. One is, what is the proper way to address people in Parliament? It's actually really up to you, but I think that our etiquette has been first names. And although in the Houses of Parliament, people said Mr. Speaker, people sometimes do say that here as well. And on occasions, especially when we're together, people tend to use that phrase on the physical sittings, but it's not obligatory. We have tended to use first names, except for Head of Nation, where we address the Head of Nation as Head of Nation or Dr. After-Bailey, usually Head of Nation. And although I've said Lena de Winner a lot today, when she's in post, I often say Prime Minister as well, partly because it helps people to understand the context. And if we have a minister, I usually say Minister Bendel, certainly a few times so that people understand who's speaking. You can call me Mr. Speaker if you want, but most people just call me Lembit. And as I get to know colleagues here, it'll be Ariadne or Benedetto or Ria or Gottfried. And I also seem to have been able to develop a rough idea of what your time zone is as well, but that takes time. I'm very aware of the fact that because we do live in a round on a globe, not on a flat earth, some of you are up in the middle of the night, some of you up early in the morning. So summarizing, don't feel worried about being silent just because you don't know how to address people. So Ross calls me Lembit, I call Lembit Ross. Sorry, Ross calls me Lembit, I call Ross. Sorry, it's a mistake there. Same goes for others. If you prefer to be called by a surname, just say, and we will respect that as well. I think we've covered everything. So looking ahead then, tomorrow, thank you for everybody's contribution, particularly to our Head of Nation more than anyone, because he has been the reason we're here and continues to be the anchor that keeps us in place on the stormy days and the ship's engine that powers us forward in fair weather. With that, I will close today's session. For those who have not yet been verified, do keep an eye out for us contacting you, please. Please be on time tomorrow at 2:30. And I leave you with this thought. 5 years ago, the head of nation set us on a course. This historic day, the 24th of June, shows that that course has been kept for 5 years, with some troubles, with some diversions, with COVID. But here we are, with a new parliament and 150 Asgardian members of parliament in our mission to fulfill Dr. Ashbeli, the head of nation's ambition to reach for the stars and to stay there in the interests of all humanity. Thank you, as always, to our translators. They will be with us again tomorrow. Thanks to my team. And more than anything, thank you yourselves for making this inspiring. With that, I close the second day of the first sitting in the second session of Parliament. We got to 79 at one point, so that'll be when we get to 38. I shall close the sitting. We shall shut down the feed. Thank you, and see you tomorrow. And
Hello,
I should say.
everyone. Hello, everyone.
And
Hello, everyone.
Good to see you.